You ever get the feeling you're being completely shafted? I get that feeling. So I'm doing something a little different with this video. This is an unedited video because I just don't have time to edit videos. So I'll just be posting this as it is. No cuts. If I say something stupid, it's staying in because, you know, that's how we roll. And I say a lot of stupid shit. After all, I am a truck driver. So I took a step back with all the events going on and the violence and all of the shit that the internet is literally filled with. And I also balanced that against time spent in the real fucking world. Believe it or not everything is on the fucking internet. Your everyday interactions, the people that are around you, it's not all on the internet. Now, this is a lesson I learned back in 2020, you know, when everybody stayed in the house and everything was on the internet. But guess what? Everything's not on the internet, all right? If you're watching any of the bullshit that shows up in my feed, your worldview right now is shit. You're going to be angry, miserable, depressed, scared. You're going to be worried about what you got to do. Should you leave the country? Should you do this? Should you do that? Should you start prepping? Is it time to stock the basement with rice and beans that are probably $50 a pound at this point? You know, there's a whole lot of doom and gloom and just it's piling on. And you got to remember that a lot of that doom and gloom, you're shining a flashlight in the dark on something that is bad. But that doesn't mean everything out that you can't see is out to get you. It's not all, you know, it's not all coming for you. Oh, Jesus Christ. I like how right when I said that dickhead just peeled right in there. Oh, he might back into me now too, and that'd be great. Slow down. Jesus. Sorry, I'm praying a lot. Hopefully nobody attacks me. You know, so aren't you glad I unedited this video? Getting back to my point, like, our world is fucked. And I know not everything that's going on is going on the internet. I'm aware of that. But I also have to take a step back and be like, what can I control? What can I do about Charlie Kirk or the millions of dumbass fucking Democrats that are on the internet calling for more, you know? And of course, the responses from the right, I imagine, have also ramped up in rhetoric. And there's downright lots of shit happening in real life that is, people are losing their lives over ideology, over shit that they've learned about on the internet. That's right. Everybody who has been doing these fucked up things, for the most part, were brainwashed on the internet. Because if all you do is sit at home or sit in your house or you stare at your phone all day when you're out in the world, that's all you're going to see is whatever the hell you find yourself clicking on, and fed to you by an algorithm that knows what you like, it knows what keeps you watching, and knows what triggers you. Because let's face it, you don't click the video that says everything's okay, that life is good and there's rainbows and unicorns and shit in your cornflakes. No, you click the video that says we're all gonna die and everything's horrible, and I'm broke, and everybody I know is broke, and we're all broke, and Wegmans roast beef is $20 a fucking pound. That is what I ran into. So I just wanted to take a step back to say that while there is definitely areas of the country that are complete shit shows, A, there's nothing you can fucking do about it, and B, you can easily avoid these places. All right? Where a lot of these violent areas, what's going on, just don't go there. And I learned that lesson during 2020. There was a lot of places that were locked down, shit shows, that I just didn't go to. I went away from them. And as a trucker, I had that opportunity. Fair enough. But you don't have to go outside your door, necessarily. Or go to a part of your town that's not a shit show. We all have shit shows in our cities. And the bigger the city, the bigger the shit show. Don't go there. Don't spend your money there. Don't bring your freight there. Don't have anything to do with there. And guess what? It's not your problem. And there's nothing you could do about it anyway. But everybody wants to feel like they can do some shit. And all they really do is stress themselves out. And it probably pushes them to make poor decisions in their life. And I've been thinking about that. I'm like, part of me wanted to quit this job when this shit kicked off. And people are on the internet talking about civil war and all this other shit. And it had me considering, like, do I really want to be out here if this shit kicks off? So I'm trying to filter some of that shit out. And I did that when I went up to Canada and I had my days off. I was gaming. When I was on the internet, it was to watch gaming videos or to game. Complete escapism at its best, at its finest. Obviously I'm spending time with my girlfriend and doing all that other stuff too. But I did not, I did consume some doom and gloom on the internet while I was up there because I felt like I needed to keep tabs on how bad things are getting. But that time is passing for me. I no longer give a shit. I don't want to hear arguments about politics right now. It's shit. All right, the ship has sailed. It's probably going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And the reality is neither you nor I can do a fucking thing about it. So why do we argue? Why do we fight? Whose minds are we changing? I'm not changing anybody's fucking mind. You're not changing anybody's mind. So let's do something productive. Let's fix what we have control over. And that is our own lives. So I'm trying to frame all of this horse shit and this heinous shit through the lens of what's coming in directly in my life. Not what did I read about on Facebook or see in my news feed or watch on TikTok or any of that stupid shit. What's happening in my world? My physical fucking reality when I step out into this truck, this box, this rolling prison that I'm in to try and fix my finances. What do I see and what can I do about it? That's the way I'm looking at it. And for example, I went to the grocery store because it's expensive as fuck. So I have this freezer here. And inside this fucking freezer, I've got a whole lot of shit. Okay, maybe there's not keto in there. But a lot of cheap shit that otherwise would cost me $5 to $6 a piece. Like those Oreo things there. They're really good and really bad for you at the same time. $5 for one of those in a truck stop. So I was like, I'm fucking buying the boxes of them, and then it's $5 for a whole box of them. Stuff like that. Stuff that I can be, they want $15 for a value meal at McDonald's. Well, I can go into the frozen food section and get me a microwavable meal from that fucking microwave up there for roughly $4 to $5 for the meal. And you know what? Sometimes it's not very big, shrinkflation. But I just chalk it up with I'm fat and I can probably do with less calories at that point. hasn't really affected me. And plus, I make up for it when I eat the Oreo anyway. Of course, I'm probably not doing my health any favors. But that being said, I know I just triggered everybody that was a keto fan, but I haven't been keto in a while, and I don't think I would, because the price of beef is ridiculous. All right? So I went into Wegmans, and I was like, oh, I wanted to get seasoned roast, because I didn't want to go in and pay a shit ton of money for sandwiches while I'm on the road, because that's what I've been doing. You know, $7 for a chicken sandwich. That's not as big as the chicken sandwiches used to be, that kind of stuff. You know, I don't get fries and none of that anymore. I don't get coffee at Starbucks anymore. You know, these are all things I'm like, if I can do it in here for cheaper, probably a better policy, especially that I'm trying to lower my debt and get to a position where I can take a break from the truck, you know, or go part-time or semi-retire. Everyone knows that's my big goal as I get closer and closer to the average lifespan of a truck driver, which is 62 years old, by the way. You know, that's the average age that we die as truckers. And before you talk shit, I just saw literally 5 car lengths in front of me. Somebody went off the middle and into the bridge thing. Highway was shut down. Helicopter life flights the person out, and I had to drive by and see, let's just say, they left some stuff behind that indicated the person that apparently got hit or flew off, or maybe they were motorcyclists. I couldn't tell because whatever their vehicle was in the ditch, like way down. So I got to see that this morning, which is always great to see when you do this for a living, because it's just a reminder that that could be you next. You know. Anyways, so instead of buying the $20 a pound, which would pretty much be 2 meals, so $10 a meal for just the meat. We're not talking about the cheese. Also, it was, I do keto wraps because they last longer and whatnot usually. I didn't buy those either. It was $6 for like 8 of them. You know, so if you put it all together, it's actually just as expensive as going in and getting a Chick-fil-A sandwich. So it didn't make sense to me. So I didn't do that. Instead, I bought the cheap-ass, highly processed and bad-for-you ham from Hillshire Farms in the deli pre-packaged section with all the preservatives and all the, you know, anti-health things. But it turns out it was cheaper. So, you know, it was $5. So, for a sandwich worth. So, yeah, pretty much. That's what I'm doing there. It's stuff like that, though. It's what can I control? If they're jacking the price up to $20 a pound on something, I'm not going to fucking buy it. You know, and if it's going to start getting to the point where I might have to go to the farmer's market and get some meat and freeze it and that kind of stuff, and, you know, start to, because I got to tell you, putting the freezer on the truck is probably the smartest thing I've done financially since doing this job. Otherwise, I would easily be spending $300 a week on food in this truck, which would offset a lot of the financial benefit for having this job right now. So that's one thing I noticed, is prices are still going up. They're still going up, and there ain't a fucking thing I can do about it except not buy the expensive shit. And that's all we can do. And if we all do that, guess what happens to that price? That price starts going down. But everybody's whipping out their credit card right now, printing some money, and buying the $20 a pound fucking meat right now. So it's not going to come down till everyone's credit card's maxed out. That's fine. It's kind of how the government works, isn't it? Except people just go get a consolidation loan, reset all their debt, and double their credit card debt. But, you know, hey, it's America. So I'm doing the best I can to try and keep my shit together throughout all of this. and to stick to my plan. You know, with all this shit that's going off, churches getting burned to the ground with people in them, you know, political violence, political assassinations, and just everybody being a piece of shit on the internet. It's time to just mind my own yard at this point. I did the same thing, if you recall, back in 2020. I was like, well, the world is shit. Nothing I can do about it. Everything's closed. What can I do? Well, I can go to where it's not all closed and where maybe there's some decent people and not a lot of bullshit. And that scenario still, this is not worse than 2020 as far as the effect on the country of what's going on right now. Most of that is confined to the internet, and when you run into people out here, they tend to be actually fairly polite and they don't fuck with you that much, you know. And I know that's not the case everywhere, but everywhere I've been going as a trucker, I've not had an issue. You know, I've had people with blue hair and a septum ring hold the door open for me while I go in, and, you know, I look like I look. I don't look like a lefty, do I? So we're all getting along out here in the real world where, you know, most people have jobs and lives and comfort to protect. Now that comfort's becoming more uncomfortable, and the more that happens, the more this is all going to break down. But for now, there's nothing I can fucking do about that, can I? I have to prepare for my own comfort. And, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to pick and choose my battles at this point. You know, and I could come on here and make political video after political video and piss off a bunch of people and, you know, get censored eventually, probably. I don't know. Supposedly we're not doing that anymore. You know, unless you're Jimmy Kimmel. You know, it's a shit show. And I don't want to be in the shit show. I like watching from the sidelines from a distance when the shit show doesn't affect me, but I feel like this shit show is affecting me, for sure. And I don't like it. So I'm going to try and do things to step away from the shit show here and there. So, getting to the title of the video, while everyone has been on the internet losing their minds on politics, shining that flashlight on every bad thing that happens in the country at this point, and it's going to keep doing, you know, this is just the beginning of that mess. And if we all just keep focusing on the internet and doing all this doom scrolling and all this stuff to make us angry and scared, that's going to continue to escalate until, who knows, till it all falls apart. But if you zoom out, you can realize all you can do is the things in your life that you have control over. Prepare for the rainy day. Rainy day is coming. You know, by rainy day, I mean the day where the internet shuts off and the gas pumps are off and the grocery stores are empty because there's nobody driving trucks around because there's too much bullshit going on and violence that we don't feel safe bringing you your food. You know, and once that happens, you know, we're done. So I would say, you know, I'm not an alarmist, but there's probably steps you can take in your life to maybe insulate yourself here and there from that. Preppers that watch me won't be very happy that I'm, you know, actually seriously considering some steps to prepare for that eventuality. But at the same time, you don't want to invest in something and have it not come to pass, you know. So if you put all your finances and investment and lifestyle into prepping and then the world doesn't end, guess what? You lost on that investment. So I've been just trying to keep my head down and observe what's going on in the real world. And I am observing some things that are alarming without looking at the internet. So as a truck driver, we're pretty tight on the economy. Plus, obviously, I'm pretty much a trader again. I knew I was going to be an investor, but now I'm a trader. as well. And I'm up 14% in 2 months, unrealized. As long as you're in the market, you're not realized. So, but I'm up 14% since I started this journey, which gives me an attaboy. I've paid off one of the credit cards, only to use it again. So I had to upgrade my phone. My other one's cracked and falling apart. So, that being said, I've made significant progress on my financial situation to the point where in a couple months, my credit card should be all paid off, even though I bought the phone, which you're watching this video on. See, I'm using my phone to make a little money, if it works. But yeah, I'm trying to continue with my plan and do my semi-retirement thing. I do get the benefit of getting to go up in Canada during time off, or if I go part-time, I'll be up in Canada a lot. So if the shit hits the fan, guess what? I'll be in a small town in the middle of nowhere in Canada with a less likelihood of bullshit happening, as opposed to Syracuse, where I'm pretty sure that town will be one of the first to fall if the shit hits the fan. So that's what I'm doing in my life to kind of hedge against this continued collapse. And I'm observing it. There's things I'm seeing now that are pretty similar to 2020. I pull into a truck stop at night now, and there's a bunch of parking spots. I go inside the truck stop, and hardly it's like a ghost town in some of them. I'll never forget when I walked into a Taco Bell at dinner time. Not only was there not a lot of trucks in the parking lot of the TA, everybody in the Taco Bell, they had like 5 people sitting there like they were ready for a dinner rush, and they were all just sitting there, with arms folded. All the counters were clean. They looked like they hadn't been busy for hours. Looked like they fresh and just started and opened or something. And I was the only one in there. And, I got my Taco Bell. Later on, had to take a shit, but, stuff like that. Things are slowing down. Another alarming thing, and this is something that didn't even happen to me during 2020 when everything was shut down. It's peak season right now. Everyone the freight pressure should be insane. It should be having me have to haul all kinds of Walmart shit and all that other shit. You know what I've been doing for a month? Hauling empty trailers. Yep, bringing them to a DC in Ohio. And then bobtailing 300 to 400 miles into New England, New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania. Grabbing another empty, bringing it back to Ohio. And I've been doing that for a month. I have not hauled a single piece of freight. Now, financially speaking, for me personally, it's been great. I got 10,000 miles this month. Making big strides in my investing and my debt and all the other stuff. But from an economic perspective, it's alarming. Once again, this isn't something I'm observing on the internet. This is something I'm observing with my own fucking eyes out here in the real world that we should be worried about. And obviously I do have to keep an eye on the markets. And one of the things I've been hearing is there's a plan. Now, I don't know the validity of this, can't trust everything I hear on the internet nowadays, especially with AI. But what I'm hearing is the Trump administration is planning to offload the national debt into crypto via stable coins and the gold market, because they have a lot of gold. And basically, how in the beginning when before Trump was inaugurated, they had that Trump coin where they rug pulled a bunch of people? It's something like that, only with the $37 trillion of government debt. Basically, it involves a whole lot of inflation. So to me, if you couple that with the $20 roast beef and the insane prices out here for fast food that keep going up and restaurants keep going up, like I just went to dinner with my girlfriend this last weekend, and I get the same. I'm a creature of habit. I get the same Cajun chicken pasta every time I fucking go to Tully's, is the place I go. And a couple of years ago, it used to be $14. And you want to know how I know that? Because I would buy the same fucking thing every time I go in there. It was $21 this time. It had gone up in just a 2-year time span, from $14 to $20, $21, I think, total, if you tax and shit. That's before tip and all the other stuff. And so this is what I am worried about now. And it's a lot less to worry about as a minimalist, as someone who has not had to pay rent in a very long time, largely because there's my roof over my head. Yes, I have a room at home with a mattress on the floor that I can crash in, also rent-free. And I know not everybody's in that position, but there are places you can go and things you can do to definitely mitigate the cost of living. The problem is everybody wants to be in a big city, and the big cities are where all the fucking inflation is the worst, especially in the housing market. That bubble's about to burst, by the way. So if you were buying a house when they're over $400,000 for the mortgage, and guess what? The bubble's about to burst. You're about to be way underwater, and a whole bunch of banks are probably going to panic. But like I said, that's all internet shit right now. What I'm telling you is what I'm seeing. And I'm seeing empty fucking truck parking lots. Also might have to do with the several 100,000 people losing their non-domicile CDL. So there will be a little bit safer on the road, I feel like, which is good. That also should drive up wages for trucking jobs if the economy does that. But that's not what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing an increase in demand because of, for truck drivers because there's less truck drivers. No, I'm seeing no growth. You would think with all these drivers losing their driving, and they were hauling all our shit, that now there would be more shit for the rest of us to haul. But no, turns out rates have dropped 14% month over month since this whole, controversy started with the illegal CDLs and the illegal companies and all that other shit. So there's a crash coming economically, and it's not reflected in the stock market at all. We just lowered interest rates. It's something they did while everybody was arguing. Jerome Powell came out. He's pretty much more powerful than President and Congress all in one, and lowered interest rates 25 basis points. Trump wanted 50, by the way, but he only got 25. But still, that's printing more money, more inflation, boosts the stock market, boosts people who are wealthy, and taxes the rest of us. Everyone's whining about tariffs. Tariff, 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 tariff. Yet we're printing all kinds of fucking money still. That is causing your inflation more so. That and the corporate greed and price gouging, all of that is going in. When I put out that I was pissed off about the $20 season, because I'm a creature of habit. It's one of the fucking things I always bought was some roast beef. Whenever I go out on the road, I'd have a pound of roast beef on the truck. A buddy of mine from my military days saw that, and he apparently has a relative that's a farmer. They paid the farmer $3 a pound. So how the fuck do we go from $3 a pound paid to the motherfucker that actually had the cow, raised the cow, killed the cow, butchered the cow, sent you the cow, cleaned up the cow farts, getting $3 a pound, And then I get to the fucking store and it's $20 a pound. Something ain't right. There was no tariff in there. Alright? There's no tariff on beef because we have our own fucking beef. I've been there. I've seen them. I've seen the fucking fields. I've smelled it. We have plenty of cows. And even if we didn't have enough cows, I'm pretty sure we can make a hell of a lot more cows. This is a renewable resource we have. So how in the hell are we going from $3 a pound to $20 a pound? I'm betting, wouldn't want to point the finger at Wegmans for gouging, but I'm betting somewhere in there somebody's fucking somebody. And then they're passing it along to us. That's what's happening. Or the corporations are just spreading the tariffs across everything. But I don't think that's what's going on, because when you look at the stock market, that doesn't tell me that, if it was tariffs, the stocks would be going down. Everybody would be like, fuck, we're losing money. Shit. No, that's not what I'm saying. Going up still. I thought for sure I'd be on here bitching that 2 of my trades went to south because of a crash. But no crash. Stock market's doing good. These are things I'm seeing with my own eyes, by the way. Not the fucking internet. Although technically I'm monitoring the charts through the internet. But that's not the same as listening to somebody talk shit on the internet. But you're listening to somebody talk shit on the internet right now. So there's that. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is, while everybody's fighting about shit they can't control, aka politics and extremism and violence, that is going on, but you can avoid it, I feel like, easily. Just don't go to these places. They're not worth it. Let them fester in their own horse shit. Alright? You don't need to go to Portland. I don't know why. We don't need to send troops to Portland. Just put the troops around the outside. Let them have it. We don't need it. Stuff like that. It's, avoid those places. If you avoid those places, it's fine. But, no. I don't know. I don't have any answers to how to fix the growing cancer of our country at this point. And it's a cancer. It's growing. It's spreading. And I think a lot of it has to do with people being radicalized by propaganda on the internet. And in the day and age where you can't tell what's real and what isn't because of the AI, it's real easy to convince somebody nowadays that of something that's completely not real and completely stupid. And then they believe it with such religious fervence that they'll go out and sacrifice their entire well-being in life. And then when you add in the economic woes and everything's coming downhill, you're going to have a lot of people with nothing to lose, and this mental illness that comes from watching propaganda on the internet all the time. That's a bad combo, So another thing you can do that you have control over is maybe limit your consumption. Obviously, you can't put your head in the sand, especially if you're near one of these hot spots of bullshit and violence that's going on. But maybe it's time to move. Maybe it's time to go someplace where maybe there's not a ton of motherfuckers doing stupid shit, committing crime and doing all of that. Maybe it's time to return to our nomadic ways and get away from the trouble areas. Because we're not going to fix it. No, not based on what I've seen on the internet. There's no solutions coming across. It's just one side's... both sides continue to escalate at this point. And I'm not going to point fingers anymore. I think it's the Democrats started the shit. And that the right's going to finish it. But either way, it's still going to escalate. It's going to be out of control. Because nobody's living in the same reality. You have two different realities. A lefty Democrat, complete different reality from somebody on the right. And then, for those of us who see everything, because we're not indoctrinated into one ideology or another, we have our own brain, that we think with. As a libertarian, I'm watching all this unfold, and I'm like, I just want to be left the fuck alone. How do I get away from all this? That's my solution. Is it the right solution for everyone? Well, if everybody mind their own fucking business, then these people running their mouths on the internet wouldn't have a fucking audience. Nobody'd be listening to them. They'd be like them sitting in the bathroom yelling in the shower or something. Nobody would give a fuck, except maybe their neighbor would probably come down or call the cops on them or something. If you give them the attention, you give them the power. That's why they're doing it. They want the power. They want you to be afraid. They want you to fear them. If you can't fucking hear them, guess what? You're not going to be afraid of them. And a lot of times they don't have the balls to do it right to your face, unless you're in certain shithole cities. And even then, they'll only do it when they're in a group. They're not going to one-on-one fuck with you. And even if they do, you can spot them a million miles away. You know who the radicals are. It's easy to see them. Just don't talk to them. Don't engage with them. It's not hard. Take away their power. Their power is completely that they can get in your head. And as long as you allow yourself to get sucked into this whirlwind of internet horseshit, they're going to keep getting into your head and pissing you off and making you angry. And maybe it'll make you fucking lose your mind and do something dumb. That's not good. So you have power over that. You have the ability to not listen. One of the first things I did when the Charlie Kirk situation took off, I intentionally baited on my social media Democrats. I was doing everything in my power to get them to run their mouth. And then when they run their mouth, block. Oh, they run their mouth, block. And these are people I know in real life who I'll never see again, who I'll never talk to again, who I will not allow back into my life ever again. So who gives a fuck what they do at this point? I don't care. Do your thing. Whatever. You're not part of my world anymore. I have the control over that. And I feel like if more people did that, this thing would die down a little. If people realize they can't get the attention that they so desperately crave, the validation, that everybody thinks I'm great. No. Take that away from them. We all have that power. Somebody wants to run their mouth about their stupid political beliefs, tell them to go fuck themselves and shut the fuck up. You don't want to hear it. You're not interested. It's not hard. At least I don't have a problem. When I tell somebody to leave me the fuck alone, I'm not interested. They tend to listen. I don't know why. But, except here on the internet, of course, when I make these videos. But that's part of the greatness of the internet, isn't it? Oh, greatness. I don't know. I feel like the internet has been lately bringing more negativity into my life than positivity. But that's my own making. I'm choosing to watch and give all of this negativity a voice. Instead, I need to be using the internet to get ahead of my finances, stop making dumb financial mistakes, and get myself in a position where I can get some more to my already accumulated 5 years of retirement. I want to at least get another 5 years in before I kick the bucket. And then I could say, yeah, at least I had 10 years of retirement in my life at the end, even if I end up working till 80 or whatever. Let's face it, I'm not living to 80, much to my girlfriend talking shit. I'm not making it to 80, I don't think. If I do, then it's a cruel fucking world. So that's it. I just wanted to get on here and say, do what you're going to do, of course, but I need to take better control over who I let in my head. And it starts with the internet. And stop letting people try to use fear and politics and all of that to radicalize you into doing stupid shit that's probably not good for your personal life. Or not, I don't know. What the fuck do I know? I'm not an expert. I'm just an asshole. Please like and subscribe for more shit. And if this uncut video shit is successful, maybe I'll do more of these, which will mean more videos more often. Or you can just turn off the internet and not listen to my ass either. I don't know. Maybe I'm part of the problem. I probably am. But if you still want me to make videos, I'll make videos. Like I said, it's partially for me I do this now. It's definitely not for the $100 a month I can earn from ad revenue. This is more, I don't know. It's like therapy, I guess. Something about when I talk to a camera, I tend to let it out. Stuff that bothers me. You know, and then of course, interacting with y'all in the comments does give me perspective. It does make me feel like, sometimes it makes me feel like I'm not, I'm not as crazy as I think I am. If that makes sense. I don't know. Sometimes listening to like-minded people in the comments does provide that validation that everyone seems to seek. But let's face it, along with that validation, I get the criticism and the shit talking and the shave your beard and all that other stupid shit. Oh well, got to take the good and the bad in life. So, before I let you go, I will say I'm on track. Probably in the next, I'm already past where I was when I quit my job back in December. Took 6 months of retirement time. However, I don't consider that a success because, like I said, I had to hit the gig economy a little harder than I wanted, and I ended up being in a deficit, underwater, credit-wise, mainly because of the vehicle. And not even just because of the vehicle, but more so because the vehicle was breaking. I will tell you that the money I spent on repairs, that debt has been paid off. That's paid down. I'm down to basically the revolving, food expenses and that kind of shit in this phone. So that's where I'm at. And hopefully soon I can drop down to part-time. That's kind of where I'm leaning, is trying to drop down to part-time trucking. However, I am prepared to go a significant amount of time and take a year off if possible. Remember, that was the goal last time. 1 year. Make it through a year. Well, I'm trying to set myself up to actually be able to do that this time. Leaning on gig economy, leaning on trading, leaning on all the things that people tell me I'm stupid for doing. I'm seeing success right now in those things, in my trading, in my finances. I'll have an emergency fund this time around, so if the van does break, I can address it without having to go into debt. And that's my goal right now. And as long as I keep hauling these empty trailers around, that'll be fine. I have a funny feeling if I was reliant on the freight market right now, it'd probably take me about twice as long, but they are piling these miles on me. I'm not going to complain. I don't care if there's anything in the box as long as I get paid. So I just think of all my years of trucking, I've never seen anything like this, to where I've hauled. Usually they yell at you if you do empty miles. Definitely if you bobtail. And to do it for load after load after load, 300-400 miles bobtail, the 400-mile empties, even if you needed empties that bad, wouldn't it be easier just to lease some new trailers locally, cheaply? When you put fuel in a truck, that's like $400 to $500, and I'd have to do that every day. And that's just that. No, we're not even getting into the lease of the truck, because let's face it, they don't buy these outright, I don't think. So I don't know. I've been assured it's normal, that they've done it before. But when you add up with I'm now able to find truck parking at prime time. I don't know, it's scary. For those of you who are also truckers, tell me in the comments, how's the freight out there for you? How are things going? You know? We'll see. Alright. Well, that's it for this video. Have a nice motherfucking day. And shit. Yeah, no intro, no nothing. No editing, no cuts. We'll see. Maybe I'll do more videos like this. Let me know in the comments. Do you like this or you like the other style I do better? Alright.